Hello, my name is Bill Schoenfelder. I wrote the book Science Proves That God Exists. I'm the author of the book. It was written from a bunch of hand sketched down notes and then compiled into a book. And now here's your chance to be able to hear the book in an audio format with the AI Aria from ChatGPT 4 reading it to you. Please enjoy and shalom.
Chapter 6, The Well in Worship. I Samuel 1:12-13. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk. History and the Jewish Torah speak about the supernatural powers of a single quantified communication system, of how God would speak to the Jewish nation during the times of Moses. This quantified communication system worked with the DNA structure of the Levitical priesthood lineage and bloodline. When God chose a certain type of tribe to represent him in the Holy of Holies, he chose a bloodline the same as the kings that were chosen in England by royal blood. Only this bloodline could enter the Holy of Holies or perform the duties that God expected man to observe and obey. The Levitical priesthood were given directions, tools, and devices to communicate, speak, observe, and deliver God's messages to the people. One such device, as I learned from researching and asking my Jewish friends, was called an Urim and Thummim. Most rabbis believe these devices were some kind of stones, although there is still debate about what they were made of. The function of these devices was to vibrate and provide answers through a yes and no system. It was recorded by the Torah and Jewish historians that another device used was called an ephod. Ephod, Urim, and Thummim. The ephod was made of fine linen and consisted of two pieces, which hung from the neck, covering both the back and front, above the tunic and outer garment of the high priest. The two pieces were joined together over the shoulders, fastened by clasps or buckles of gold or precious stones, and secured round the waist by a girdle. The breastplate, with the Urim and Thummim, was attached to the ephod. Exodus 28:31-35 describes the ephod in detail. Make the robe of the ephod entirely of blue cloth, with an opening for the head in its center. There shall be a woven edge like a collar around this opening so that it will not tear. Make pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn around the hem of the robe, with gold bells between them. Aaron must wear it when he ministers, and the sound of the bells will be heard when he enters and exits the holy place before the Lord, so that he will not die. I learned from my Jewish friends that they communicated with God through the ephod, which included glowing gems and stones with the names of Israel's tribes inscribed upon them. The gemstones on the breastplate would light up and spell out words in Hebrew when questions were asked. Imagine it like the game Simon, a series of lights and tones requiring repetition. Could these glowing stones have been activated by a specific frequency or current? The water, the well, and the women. John 4:19, Sir, the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. The content of this chapter is important because it explores how people worshipped in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. I included some original sketches from 2015 that show a picture of the temple, which represented how Jews worshipped during the era of Moses. They met with God in the temple to get answers through the high priest, a method I consider Old Testament. Next to it, I drew a picture of a mountain, labeling it New Testament, where non-Jews, like the Samaritans, worshipped openly. The Samaritan woman at the well told Jesus that her people worshipped on the mountain. This showed that they gathered there for answers, whereas Jews had to go to the temple. Her statement highlighted the separation between Jews and Samaritans in their worship. At the top of my notes, I wrote, God, Jesus, and spiritual facts, with the Holy Spirit circled in a cloud. A line came down from the cloud with the phrase, This is the truth from the Bible and prophets. The Bible and prophets were how God communicated his word. Below, I sketched mind, soul, and love power, representing communication with God after the resurrection. John 4:21-24 describes this shift in worship. Woman, Jesus replied, Believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. A time is coming when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. The veil had been torn, and communication with God was now directly accessible to all through the Spirit. It was no longer dependent on a temple or a mountain. Worship came from the heart and soul. Why is there doubt? Input versus output. Why don't we believe when He tells us the truth? What distorted viewpoint causes us to doubt? Is it our past experiences, social media, or false information? We must ask ourselves these questions because they affect how we process thoughts and receive truth. As discussed in Chapter 4, our input can be relational, objective, contain matter, or be spiritual. It's crucial to question our input and filter what we say, hear, or think. Getting deeper. John 4:16-19 tells the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus said to her, "Go call your husband and come back." She replied, "I have no husband." Jesus said, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband." The woman knew that adultery was punishable by death, yet she trusted Jesus with her truth. He revealed Himself as the Messiah because she spoke the truth. John 4:25-26 says, "The woman said, 'I know that Messiah is coming. When He comes, He will explain everything to us.' Then Jesus declared, 'I, the one speaking to you, I am He.'" Through this story, we see how God honors the truth and reveals Himself to those who trust in Him. This concludes Chapter 6, The Well and Worship,